Professor Pankaj Jain, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again for, like everybody else, I also thank the organizers for inviting us. And I'm also going to show you some screens. We have been doing Zoom forever, and how come I forget? How do I share? All right, here I can. Hope you can see my screens, my PowerPoint. All right. So something to do with climate crisis, of course, but also I bring in some perspective from Indian films in India, how they're made and how climate crisis has been appearing in Indian films for a long time as well. All right, so we just heard in the last presentation by David about the biodiversity, no idolatry, lion in a beautiful picture. And I'm just immediately reminded of the fact that even in today's world ridden with so many crises, climate crises and whatnot, except Africa, if there is any country in the world that has lions, hundreds and hundreds of lions, it's India, with 1.4 billion people within such a landlocked country, less than one third of the land mass that India has compared to the US. And with 1.4 billion people, India can still boast of lions. India can still boast of rhinoceros. India can still boast of tigers, leopards, and biodiversity at every corner of the country, including one's homes. No matter how much pesticides one can use within any home in India, you can never get rid of ants and cockroaches and cattle on the street, buffaloes on the street, dogs on the street, donkeys on the street, monkeys on the streets, highways. You go any part of India, Himalayan, I've traveled breadth and length of India, and almost every highway has signs: stop your traffic, stop your cars, do not honk, this is the elephant zone. Stop your car, let the elephants pass. National highways or state highways or local highways, you have no monopoly. That is the vision that India has still so far preserved for all to see. India set a target for going with COP26. India set a target for 2030 to cross a certain threshold for renewable energy. And we are all proud to say, I'm a US citizen, but I'm at heart, I remain an Indian. I'm speaking from Dallas as of now, but I am so proud and so grateful that 7 years before the deadline, India has already crossed all the limits to go renewable. More than 40% of Indian energy today is made by renewable sources, not fossil fuel. With 1.4 billion people, almost one third still below poverty line. So India is fighting two battles at the same time, and so on. So many thoughts I can go on, but I guess I'll come back to my slides here. This was my first book, which came out of my PhD thesis in 2008 from the University of Iowa near Chicago, in which I did some fieldwork with 3 communities spread across western parts of India: Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, and in which I show that so many words that we use in everyday language, such as tree hugger. Tree hugger word has entered our lexicon from an Indian example going almost 500 years from today, where 300 years from today, where the community started 500 years ago, but the first ever environmental sacrifice that happened was led by, we heard from Kim, ecofeminism. The first example of ecofeminism comes from India, where Amrita Devi, an indigenous woman, literally hugged her sacred tree of Khejdi, and with her, more than 300 people sacrificed their life. They were killed by nearby soldiers as they protected their sacred tree. That's the first community called the Bishnoi. So that hugging gave us the word tree hugger. And now when I used to teach in Dallas, the word tree hugger generates only laughs, and it's like a joke for my students in the US. But tree hugging is a very sacred act that saved thousands of trees in the Himalayas, hundreds of trees in Rajasthan. The Indian desert in Rajasthan, which is on the border of India and Pakistan, is even today the richest desert in the world with richest flora and fauna. Because people like Bishnois and Jains and all those who remained vegetarians for hundreds of years saved all these animals. They were never consumed for food. In the desert, they grew technology, they grew traditions to save water. Every drop of water was precious for them, is precious for them. I come from that home state. So I cry my heart out when my kids who were born in India, or born in Dallas, or born in New Jersey and grew up in Dallas, spend 1 hour in shower. God, please save every drop of water. I can't beg them enough, but that is the huge difference in cultures that I see every day within my family, within my own kids. And I mean, I can only persuade them to save water, save every precious drop of water. Do not waste every inch, every degree of Celsius on our thermostat. I can't just. I feel so. I start shivering when I go to malls in Dallas area. Because I most of my part of the year I teach in India, so I come here only summer, and everywhere there is so much wastage, despite all the talks and conferences and lectures. Every room has 10 extra lights. Every home, office, mall is shivering with cold temperatures. I can just go on and on, fresh from India. Anyway, so that was my first community, Bishnois. Second community, Swadhyaya, is a new religious movement, and they have constructed new sacred groves. Despite all the trees are being cut off, many trees are being cut off in India also. It does have still significant cover of forest with 1.4 billion people. Still, some they have created new sacred groves. So not just a temple is sacred, not just heavens are sacred. Every tree is literally sacred for Hindus, Jains, Buddhists, Sikhs across Asia. For Japanese people, the Japanese flag has red sun on it as a dot because sun is sacred for Japanese people also. Every particle in the universe is sacred for Japanese, Taoists, Hindus, Jains, Buddhists across Asia, indigenous communities. We heard the first presentation. That is what people are still preserving today. They're struggling to preserve, but they are still preserving so far. Then the third community I presented was Bhil community. They are also indigenous people spread across Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Maharashtra. Now, coming from Sanskrit text, what we get from Hindu text, Sanskrit text, is the Panch Mahabhutas. Panch gives us the word, the great punch, the five fruit punch. Punch means five. Fruit punch has the same word punch, which comes from Sanskrit word for five, which means the five great elements have always been divine and sacred for Hindus for thousands of years: earth, fire, air, water, and space. That is what they have been revering, singing praises for, trying to preserve, trying to keep them clean. It is very, very difficult with industrialization happening at a very rapid pace in India also. So air has become very polluted in many cities, but many things are still being preserved in many, at least towns and villages. So earth, fire, air, water, and space. Space so far is still untouched for the most part. Karma is the word in English also, which also comes from Sanskrit language. Karma simply means recycling of our actions, and they haunt us back with consequences. Uh, as a US citizen, I can say that my government has given, it remains the largest exporter of weapons across the world. 40% of all weapons sold across the world are sold by the US. Those weapons are now hurting us back. When yesterday we heard in Texas, I speak from Texas, so I am still grieving over what happened in the southern Texas. Those are the same sins that my government committed across the world. They're haunting us back. Not just across the world, but even within my own country, we slaughter thousands and thousands of animals every day for our own appetite, for our own taste. Those karmas are haunting us back. So that cattle needs food, that cattle's food comes at the cost of rain forests in Brazil, in tropical forests. Those are all being destroyed again for our appetite for beef. That karma is haunting us back. Karma never leaves us, it will never leave us. We can keep having conferences, but until we stop all kinds of meat consumption, until we switch to renewable energy, until we stop all kinds of violence, we can never improve and we will never have any chance. We have no other chance until we change ourselves. Karuna is another great example, again coming from Sanskrit, and it's a very powerful Buddhist concept as well. When Buddha was preaching 2,500 years ago, he was focusing only on self-effort for nirvana. That was called the Theravada Buddhism. Then came Mahayana Buddhism, and they incorporated another beautiful concept called compassion. Compassion, the word is karuna. So pragya, which means wisdom, and karuna, which means compassion. We need wisdom and we need compassion. Compassion because every particle in the universe deserves the same right, has the same right and privilege to flourish and not to be hurt by others. And that is the compassion that Buddhism teaches. And that has helped, again, many countries across Asia, especially, to be able to hug trees, to save trees. For example, Thailand, Buddhist monks have saved many trees because trees are also divine, because trees also have the Buddha nature. So many such beautiful concepts we see coming from Indic traditions. Ahimsa and vegetarianism. Ahimsa is an integral, the most important concept coming from Jainism, which is another third major ancient tradition also coming from India. Ahimsa, I already spoke on meat consumption. And so Ahimsa, the biggest reflection of Ahimsa that we see in the world today is when people, thousands of people, even in the Western Hemisphere, even in the US, I criticize my country, but even in the US, people are turning towards, even beyond Indians, what Indians have been doing, they are turning towards veganism, stopping even dairy products. That is just, I can only salute to those people who are not even taking dairy products, because even dairy comes at a great amount of violence to our cattle. We heard the beautiful word, Gaia word, from Greek language or Greek mythology, Greek philosophy. Gaia in Indian language simply means Go Mata, or the cow mother. It's called as Gaia in Indian languages. So Gaia is a beautiful, revered cow mother. Mother cow is Gaia for Indians, for Hindus, for those who speak Indian languages. So that ahimsa is reflected not just towards human beings, but highest non-violence towards animals. Not even killing a single cockroach, not even killing a single ant inside our home. Let's just nudge it outside gently toward outside our home if I'm especially scared of cockroaches. But I would never kill it. I would just let it go outside my window, open the window and let it go. So that is the way towards way to see, to demonstrate ahimsa that have been practiced by thousands and thousands of people for thousands of years. That is the only way to save our planet, not just by talking. Reverence for the universe, again coming from the Panch Mahabhutas. Every particle is every particle is to be revered. Every particle has Brahman nature from Hindu perspective. Every particle has the Buddha nature from Buddhism. Every particle has soul from Jain perspective. We heard about ecofeminism again, and this is another common picture for India or for Hindus, but an exotic picture for Western Hemisphere, I guess, where a goddess can take a very powerful form also, as she kills the demons of greed, demons of anger, demons of jealousy, demons of I guess I can include capitalism and violence. All those demons are always killed by the great goddess Mahadevi, Durga, Ambika, Chandika, so many names she has. And even lion serves for the goddess as she kills all these demons within us and outside us. Mahishasur Mardini, her name in Sanskrit. Mardini means one who kills. Mahishasur means one who even the buffaloes and lions help her. So animals are always part of the Hindu pantheon. They are never separate. Birds and reptiles and animals, they all work in tandem with gods and goddesses in Hinduism, and as they kill all these demons of evil nature that we sometimes show. This image or this myth I use in my recent article in climate engineering. What climate engineering tells us is that we can stop the sunlight so that it stops heating our planet more and more, right? Because sunlight or radiation from the sun is one of the biggest reasons for global warming. And in that effort, for that very short period, it happened in one of the myths in Hindu myths, also in the Mahabharata, where an evil villain was to be killed by hero Arjuna with the help of Krishna. And as he is killed, Krishna has actually stopped the sunlight for a very brief period, within which the Arjuna succeeds in killing that villain. So I use that myth to remind the scientists that if you're playing God again, if you're playing to stop the sunlight, let that be a very brief moment of reflection. In that brief period, we all must really clean off our acts, our past karmas, clean all the CO2s, and never play God again, never mess up with our nature. Never mess up with sunlight or air or water or earth. So that's just a brief example from one of the Hindu myths. There's a Jain taxonomy in which they say that Jains have been saying and practicing that only beings that we can consume for our survival is minimal earth, minimal water, minimal fire or air or plants. Never kill any other being such as mammal or reptile or bird, because those beings are at the same level as humans. So this the last row that you see is all equal. So humans are equal to gods, gods are equal to demons, mammals, reptiles, and birds. So to kill a bird or a reptile or a mammal is equal to killing a human being. So equal amount of sins, equal amount of karma, negative karmas one will accumulate. So that is the way Jains devise their taxonomy of beings in the universe to minimize violence across the universe. And then the great example of Gandhi, of course, where he remains a role model of truth, nonviolence, simplicity. He barely wore anything. He just was always bare chest, and he was making his own clothes by his own wheel that he spun across entire his life. He practiced celibacy, self-reliance, austerities, and Gandhi, an ecological treatise, as Professor Vinay Lal calls him, from UCLA, not too far from some of you who are in California. He consumed only small meals. He practiced silence. I'm talking too much. Silence, 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 silence of words, silence of mind, silence of actions. He would take walks every day, walking meditation. Cultivation of the small. If you have seen Richard Attenborough's film, Hollywood film, 1982 award-winning film, he would leave an important meeting and take care of a small goat, because goat has the equal attention that goat deserves from us, not just the big national issue or big issue of climate change. No, let's just reflect on our own small actions first before worrying about global crisis. Spinning wheel, he was making his own clothes. So abhorrence of waste, his son loses a small piece of pencil and Gandhi loses his sleep for an entire night. Where did I go wrong that my son has lost the importance of a piece of pencil also? I cannot let that happen. That kind of amazing life Gandhi lived for all to learn, and Indians need to learn as well today, as many of the Indians seem to be copying all the mistakes that are being done by US and other Euro-American countries. Coming to Indian films now, just last couple of slides. So Indian films have shown natural disasters for all their history of last almost 100 years of Indian films. We see natural disasters in them. We see rural issues in them, famines and droughts and so on. We see urban issues, pollutions, and so on. Nature preservation. So animals remain very important part of many Indian films. And then, but we also see some other messages such as Mother Nature is invincible. Mother Nature will come and strike at you. If you don't behave in her ways, you will learn the lessons very hard way by Mother Nature. So respect and revere the mother and be grateful. That message also comes in across many films. Disasters are also shown as they act as turning point of the plot. And in the climax, the natural disasters can serve as a lesson for socio-ecological harmony, such as even between Hindus and Muslims, for example. That also is being taught by Indian films, some of the way they show the natural disasters. And that is all my slides. And if there is time, I can show a trailer of a film. I don't think we have time for the full film, but would you like to see a trailer, or would you like to, or should I? We can keep moving ahead if you.
We can see
Your process.
a trailer.
All right, I'll show you a trailer then. All right, share screen, share sound.